I think a lot of Utahns will tell you, I didn't know gay people existed until I was 18.
It's just uniquely hard to be in a place where you're religious and where you're queer. I had a faith transition when I was in college and decided I no longer wanted to be Mormon or LDS. And sometimes when I speak in a bitter tone about a religion that to me personally and in my experience means rejection, and to other experiences it's something that is so beautiful to them. When I speak in a bitter tone about that, it can make them feel unwelcome and unsafe in this space. And I don't want them to feel unwelcome and unsafe in this space.
I'm feeling queer today.
Welcome back to I'm Feeling Queer Today, a podcast that amplifies the voices of LGBTQ plus young people for listeners like you, whoever you are, brought to you by the Future Perfect Project. I'm Hannie Saba, and I use she, her pronouns. You might remember me as one of the producers and hosts of the Spartanburg episodes. Before we get started, we want to shout out some of our lovely listeners who have left our show 5-star ratings and comments. Kai, Piper Terror, Asper, Will, Ella, Mimi B, Hubie Dad, and Eva Tenuto. Thanks, everyone. And if you leave us a comment or a 5-star review, we might just give you a shout out on a future episode too. At the top of the episode, you heard from the staff at Encircle Provo, one of the 5 homes serving LGBTQ plus youth ages 12 through 25 across Utah. Growing up in Provo, I had the opportunity to attend some of the first programming available at Encircle when its doors first opened in 2017, and it was life-changing. According to a 2023 study, 42% of Utah's population are self-identified members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also referred to as LDS or Mormon. Since queer youth in Utah have all types of experiences with the church, the Encircle homes follow the motto, "No sides, only love." This way, every LGBTQ plus person, no matter their relationship to the church, has a welcoming place to go. Go back to episodes 3 and 4 of this season to learn even more about Encircle and the beautiful community they fostered. We'll have episode links in the show notes and description too. Another person who understands the intersection of religion and queerness is Anne Russo, a social worker who brings her master's in theology into her therapy practice to help folks process and heal from religious trauma. Our friend Persis had Anne as a guest on her incredible podcast, Room for Us, and we're delighted to share that interview with you today. In this episode, you'll learn more about Anne's experience in the therapy space, what it was like for her to attend an ex-gay conference as a queer person, and a new evidence-based approach she's developing to overcome religious trauma. Thank you, Persis, for letting us share this interview with our listeners. Definitely subscribe to the Room for Us podcast for even more important conversations that center queer and BIPOC voices. Let's take a listen.
Hey friends, and welcome back to Room for Us, a space where queer voices thrive. I'm your host Persis, and today's episode is a really special one. We're joined by Ann Russo, an experienced mental health professional with over 2 decades in the field, and someone whose personal journey is just as powerful as her professional work. Ann blends her background in theology with lived experience as a queer woman to speak to some of the most tender and complicated intersections: identity, faith, trauma, and healing. In this conversation, we talk about the real mental health challenges LGBTQ plus people face today and what actually helps from someone who's been on both sides of the care system. Anne also shares what it was like growing up in a queer household in the 80s and gives us an inside look at the time she attended a religious conversion therapy conference. Yes, really, as a queer woman. This one is thoughtful, it's honest, and deeply affirming. Let's get into it. And tell me about yourself. What I did find really interesting is I read that you grew up in a queer household during the 80s. So,
Yes.
what was that like for you, and how has it shaped the work that you do today?
So, it's funny that you ask that question because I think about the 80s and I think that wasn't that long ago. And I think, holy heck, it actually was a very long time ago now. And, it was really different. I grew up with my dad, his partner, and my mom and my younger sister all in the same household.
Wow.
And yeah, it was pretty intense. But from my perspective, like we were fine. We were just a family doing family things, eating dinners together and doing homework and people going to work and cleaning the house. But we weren't allowed to actually tell anyone outside of our household except for my dad and his partner's friends, who were also gay men for the most part, who didn't have kids. So that was kind of an interesting experience, probably for them as well, because my sister and I grew close to their friends who didn't have kids in their lives. But we didn't have family get-togethers with heterosexual or normative families, and we kept it, like I said, all as a secret. So at the time it was challenging, but I didn't know any different.
Because that's when you were young. Like, did this kind of start when you were younger too, like with that dynamic?
My dad came out when I was 4, and he had this idea of that we should still be with my mom. It was a lot of challenging adult stuff going around, relational dynamics that I don't really know fully because I still have my my 4-year-old brain with that. But it was from the time I was 5. So we all moved to another state together. My mom, my dad, and his partner, and my sister. And we didn't know anyone there. So like it was really like us as a family unit. And I just knew that people that were gay or queer were not accepted. And that was made very clear to me young, that would be damaging to our family if
Hence
we
the like
talked about it.
the secret around it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have this experience, but people suspected. And my sister remembers kids not playing with her or don't talk to her. Her dad's a queer, things like that. So it was like, even though we didn't say it, I think it was perceived in some situations, which made things awkward, especially for my sister. She experienced more of that than I did.
And is your sister much older? I'm sorry if I missed
Oh,
that.
no, I didn't say. So you're good. She's actually 2 years younger than I am.
She's younger. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So she was 3. You don't understand those kinds of things when you're young. Like, why do people hate my family? What did we do, or what did I do, or what did my dad do that was so wrong that we
Yeah.
have to hide and live this way?
Yeah.
And dodge questions, and friends, parents wanting to get together with my parents, but there always being a reason or an excuse as to why that can't necessarily happen. And then, parading my mom. This is my mom, and this is my dad, but they're not. Like, it was difficult.
Absolutely. I could see how like it is a unique situation in that sense, but I could see how within your family, did you feel that it was nice to have both your mom and dad there, like growing up together?
Yes. Well, I had 3 parents, and like I can't differentiate between like my biological dad and his partner as far as like my love or fatherly feelings go. Like it feels exactly the same to me even today. Like they're still together. They've been together. They just celebrated their 40th anniversary.
Oh, congrats to them.
Yeah.
Wow, 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was kind of cool because they're so different, the 3 of them. So I feel like I learned different things from each parent. So I mean, I feel lucky in that way. I think that the more positive adults around kids, the better. And they were very positive. So I feel lucky in that way, but I also recognize that for some, hearing a story like this is probably very shocking.
Where did you grow up in the States?
I was in Arizona, which was very conservative at the time we were living there.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
like massive secret. At
Wow.
14, we moved to California, my dad and his partner, and then my mom soon came after, and they lived separately at that point. But we were allowed to start telling our friends
Okay.
that we had 2 dads essentially. And I have to tell you, that was so scary. Like, because you've been trained since you're so young that people are not going to accept you or accept your family, and now all of a sudden you can share this information. I mean, it's very terrifying.
Well, and at that time, was there more media representation or things you could see that were normalizing this. So you could say, okay, well, this person in the media came out, for example. Like, was there anything that kind of helped you come to that? Or was it still like, this is very isolating and scary?
It's funny that you should ask that because every once in a while, there would be a television program that might highlight a gay character. And I specifically remember in the early 90s, there was a show that came out called Melrose Place, and they had a gay character on the show. And my whole family sat around to like watch this show that now had a gay character on it. Of course, the character wasn't highlighted. It was very soap opera-esque. It was not a family show or anything, but it was like such a big deal for the family to like see a gay person on television. But there wasn't really, no, there really wasn't.
Yeah.
It was very isolating. Yeah, it was very, I'm trying to think of anything, but most of the, that was the time of a lot of television talk shows, and they would have gay characters, gay people come onto the show sometimes, but it was always in opposition to Christians. So like it was never like this is a gay person and this is their family. It's like here's a gay person, this is their family, and now here are the people that say that they're sinful and morally wrong. So like it was never like a positive experience,
Yeah.
and in the early 90s on a talk show, a gay man had revealed a crush on another man and he ended up killing him for being gay. Look it up, Jenny Jones.
Oh my God, I've never heard of that. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
that up. That's
yeah.
awful.
Yeah, it was horrible. And like the talk show hosts had to go on trial, but those are like things that are like seared into my mind that was going on, when I was younger.
Yeah, it's not something to take lightly at all.
No,
Like, and that's why, like, understandably, like, you could think, like, okay, maybe I can open up, but you just never know, like, what people are going to say, what they can do. It's terrifying because humans are capable of anything, honestly. We've seen
totally.
it.
And I can think of things like where we were in line at a concert and my dad overheard someone saying something about gay people and we left, because he's scared that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are real threats and real fears that you're carrying around of just being rejected because you exist. And there was
Yeah.
no real community at that time. It was very difficult to find community at that time.
I bet. I bet. And I'd be curious, as well. I think it's very beautiful in this regard with your family, like the dynamic between your mom and dad. I just because I do find that very unique, and I
Yeah,
just think it's amazing that I don't know what conversations they had had, but to be like, we are going to raise our kids together with your partner too, and it can be a community effort. I just think that's like
it's
beautiful is the word.
unbelievable. No, I mean it's
Unbelievable.
really unbelievable. My mom is a very fascinating character in the story for sure. She was the first person, and I've interviewed her about this before, and she said that when my dad started to feel feelings, I mean he was suicidal, he was like physically ill. I mean it was anything but to be this dreaded gay person, you know.
Hmm.
My mom said that he said I'm so sorry, but I think I might be gay. And my mom said, you have to be who you are, or something along those lines. And she encouraged him to seek therapy, not to change him, but to help him be authentic and be who he is.
Yeah, uncover the root of himself. Yeah, because there's obviously so much to unpack, like your internal feelings, because your dad would have come out later in life, right? So that's a
Yeah.
lot of years to, yeah, to talk
And
through.
and I've had the privilege of talking to both of my parents. And I remember my mom's mother, in her 90s, and she telling me like we didn't even know what it was. When your
True.
dad
Yeah.
came out, we had no like it was like, what is this? This isn't even a thing. So it was like, even though I'm sure there were plenty of queer people in her life, it was not talked about, it was not known. And so, I just think how much times have changed, even though they're difficult, but to not even know.
Yep. Like it's completely unheard of, right? Like I wouldn't know a world where that's not a thing, right? Because even like I grew up in the mid 90s as a kid. I was born in 95. Still, it wasn't really talked about, but people did know. I just couldn't imagine a world being like, what is that? You know, like you did know.
Totally. No, it's wild because, thinking about when you were born. So when you were born is when I was starting high school
Yeah,
as a freshman in high school. And I was in California and we pushed really hard, my friend and I, to start the gay straight alliance, as we would have called it back then.
right.
And like we had to fight the school board. Like it was such a difficult thing to do, and
Wow.
we were here today and I go to the same pride parade and I see that the school board is in the parade. You know what I mean? So it's like times have really shifted so much. So it's interesting to think about what you would have seen and experienced and what we saw and experienced, and then even the people that were doing, fighting at Stonewall had to go through
Yes.
the experience.
I do want to get more into your work. You've supported over 1,500 clients through AMR therapy. What are some of the most common mental health challenges that you see queer people are facing right now? And how do you help? How do you help them?
I started AMR therapy because one, I have an extreme passion for religion and theology, and I feel like that is the root of a lot of pain for LGBTQ people. So I got my master's in theology with an emphasis on Christianity and queerness. And then I'm like, how do I help people? What do I do? I'm like, therapist. Okay, so then I went into that, and my dream was to create a safe space for people to come and receive support around religious issues, really, and trying to rectify any kind of faith queerness intersection. That was really
Hmm.
important to me. But then as I actually worked in the field, I realized that there were so many barriers to care, finances, therapists that were really equipped to understand the queer experience, and availability. I mean, I could just go I could just go on and on and on, right? So with AMR therapy, I created a virtual practice before COVID. So we were already up and running and we offered sliding scale, and I started to hire on therapists that had the experience. So people I went to grad school with, and then slowly it was like, okay, this person knows this person who works with this population. So we have a really diverse group. There's about 15 therapists now,
Oh,
and
nice.
we're super diverse, but all of us have sensitivity and training around queerness. Like that's like a requirement to come on board and work with us. But we specialize in queer identity, sexual empowerment, BIPOC inclusion, and and any marginalized community with the social justice brand attached to it.
Hmm. No, that's beautiful. And to get the right people involved is so important because it's very sensitive, as you said. Like you need to be qualified.
Exactly. It's, I would see that people oftentimes would want to work with gay couples, but they really didn't have the experience. They said they had the experience with couples, but it's nuanced, like I'm not saying that their hearts aren't in the right place, but it
Yeah.
really is not the same.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Did you grow up religious? Like, I'm curious about that, how you got really interested.
So I did not grow up religious. I knew religion to be the people that hated us. That's how I understood religion, frankly. But everyone around me was religious. Like I grew up where in Arizona was very heavily Mormon community. And then when I moved to California, one of my best friends, her dad was a pastor. So like I just started meeting people that were religious and I was curious about it. And then when I was 18, I met people from a church group that talked about, it's a relationship with Jesus. I was very fascinated by it. It didn't hurt that like I really hit it off with one of the ladies at the church. So of course I dove right in at that point. But yeah, so I was really into this church. Just found it so fascinating the way that people felt and about God or the Bible and different viewpoints and these very strict ideas of what it means to be saved and who's going to heaven and why. And I don't know, I was impassioned by it.
Yeah.
And being a queer person, they're telling me that that is a sin. Like I'm a sinful person. We're all sinful people. Hate the sin, not the sinner. That was the big mantra back then. But so I jumped in and I was like, okay, well, I want to understand where this is coming from. So I went to an ex-gay conference.
Yeah, that's what I was going
Yeah,
to ask you about. I'm so curious.
yeah. Ask. What do you want to know?
No, so you did attend a religious conversion therapy conference as
Mhm.
an out. Do you identify as queer?
Yeah, queer is good.
So you're there as a queer woman. It must have been very interesting, very intense. Please tell us what that experience was like and what did you take away from it?
So first, the caveat, because I wasn't raised religious, that's a huge factor here because I didn't come into it believing this since I was little. So
Yeah.
I think it was much easier for me to go, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. How did they get here? So I, in essence, needed convincing of why they were correct, but I was very respectful. And also, how are they getting to this place? Like, what is this? How are they deciding that this is wrong or these people are sinful? That was the real tug, right?
Hmm.
And I knew even then I needed to understand that so I could help queer people, because the woman I mentioned earlier, who I was really into, like, it was very mutual, but she would never act on those feelings because it was against her faith, right? So I was like, I don't get how love can be against God.
Yeah.
So I want to go to this conversion conference to find out what's happening. And what I learned was, for the most part, people are not coming from a place of hate. It feels like it, absolutely. When we see people with the signs and things like that. But when you start to talk to people, they really think that they're saving your soul.
Yeah. Wow. And I do like how you said that because I think it is really easy to, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Like I feel angry, of course,
Yeah.
when I hear about this, but I think when you're talking to someone who actually really believes this and they are like, I'm trying to help, like I would also be curious, like I need to get to the root of it. So you kind of understood, like this doesn't seem like hateful. It's just this is their genuine belief.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
So it was, and what they believe that they're saving you from is also very fascinating too, because they're not understanding sexuality to be love and attraction to someone of the same sex and like having like a healthy relationship. They're understanding it that it's, if you are a queer person, you will automatically be a depraved person. You will automatically not love God. You will start having a substance abuse issue. You will start being promiscuous. You will move away from what it means to be with God. So so how like there's a lot of studies on rejection around queerness, and that talks about like queer folks have a higher substance abuse rate problem, they have higher STI problems, mental health. So
Hmm.
they use those same studies and they say it's because they're queer or gay. So it's like they're twisting that. And
Hmm.
but the issue is that the parishioners of the church, or the people that sons and daughters are coming out queer, oh my gosh, my pastor quoted this study that said this and this and this, my child is no longer going to love God. What am I going to do to help my child not live this life of sin? It's not coming from hate, it's coming from information that is correct and then twisted all up
Hmm.
harm. Because
Hmm.
what do we know that's happening? It's rejection. It's rejection of family, of community, of friends, of peer support, school, bullying. Those are what's causing those issues. It's not the inherent sexual identity.
So it's like maybe also it's fear and they're acting out like
Yes.
what they're fearful of for the people around them and they're
Yes.
trying to.
Yes. I remember I was teaching a class about being a queer Christian, and I had a mom come in there and she was so scared for her son. She's like, he's out in, another state and he's with queer people and now he's doing queer things and he's going out to bars and he's lost his way with Jesus and I just want to bring him back, and then she started quoting those studies. And now if I had come at her just as angry,
Yeah.
what would that have accomplished? Now, I'm not saying that as queer people, we don't have every right to be angry. But what I am saying that hopefully there's some of us that can deal with it in a different way, while the rest of the folks can just be angry, because like I said, we have every right to be angry and upset. But it's helpful, I think, because I wasn't raised in faith, that I can like sit there and I can hear all this and I'm not really impacted by it in the same way. And then I can work with family members and parents that are really steeped in faith and honor their understanding of their faith and still figure out how to have relationship with their child.
Yeah.
Very delicate work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very delicate. And I think also you not having that attachment to it growing up, like this was something you were just interested in, like through as you got a little older, right? Like even you said with your best friend's dad being the pastor and everything, it's
Yeah.
just something that you kind of started to get to know later. So you
Yes.
kind of have that like a different perspective you can bring that's maybe not so emotionally attached to it. So you can do it, you can kind of do it properly. You're not reacting like super
Totally.
angry, like, because normally
Yeah.
it's very natural to.
Totally. I mean, I think that I've been really gifted the passion and the desire without the background. Like my background of being raised in a queer household, being hated and feeling like you're hated by this group, and then going into the group and saying, "Why do you hate me?" is really, really different, right? So it's I didn't have to work on understanding and loving and accepting queerness. And I think that when you're coming out of religion or you're in religion, a lot of times that is a hurdle for any mainstream religion. That is a hurdle.
One thing I am curious about too, if you know, is I didn't grow up Christian like with my family Christian Catholic, but I went to a Catholic school. But I've always been very like detached from it, to be honest, just because my family wasn't religious at all. But I am really curious about how it seems like the common theme that comes up is like, if you're queer, your relationship with God is like in jeopardy. But I always feel like what I did know growing up in like a Catholic school and what we're always taught is like God loves all like and it's hard for me to wrap my head around like would God really not like me because I'm queer? So I just want to do you know like where that specifically came from? Is it because of those studies with like the substance abuse or the STIs? Like I'm just more curious about that.
Sure, and that's a whole thing in itself. But yeah, it's so Christianity specifically, they'll look at specific Bible verses that have been translated, and it's called the clobber passages. I haven't looked at them in a minute, but I really studied them very hard, and it's what is used to say like homosexuality is a sin. And it's only been since the 1900s that, for whatever reason, it's fundamentalism has really held on to this idea that being gay is wrong and has just launched a crusade based on a couple of verses and verses that I feel that once you study them more and understand the culture and the language, it don't really hold up. But
Mm-hmm.
people don't do that so much, right? So it has really just taken off. Like homosexuality is a sin. And then in the 1980s with the AIDS crisis and everything that happened there, it was like, and there was the religious right that really got formed during that time too, and it just became such a hot button issue. What's interesting about it though is if you go back and you read letters or writings from pastors in the 1800s, they speak the same way about slavery, that it is pro God and this is why. And you could like change, like you literally could just insert homosexuality in slavery. Like the stance was a pro slavery stance because it was biblically supported.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And even when you look at interracial marriage and the laws around interracial marriage, I mean, the judges say God created this group to be separated from this group to be, yeah. I mean, so it's like this book has been used in every way possible to marginalize different groups of people at different times in history. So right
Yeah.
now, it's our turn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I now that you're saying that, I think I do remember hearing this, that it's like literally these things that people just hold on to for like years and years to come. It's like literally this is Bible and they like run with it.
But they don't really like study it because
Yeah.
it's like, well, this is what I was told, this is what my pastor said, and the damage that it does. So I don't think that it's necessarily that queer people don't want or have faith, but they're literally told that they don't belong.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like you don't feel like you can for sure. Because
Exactly.
as you mentioned, it's like you just think, you're hated.
And that
You're
just
not welcome.
frustrating so much. I have a client recently that I was chatting with, and they were saying, I lean on God, but every time I pick up the Bible, I feel sick because I'm married to a woman. So I don't know how to have my faith. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
that hurts me to hear that, because, it's someone who wants to lean on God and Christianity and then feels like almost like a disgust
Yeah.
and at the Bible. So it's like I have to stay away from this. So what does this mean for my relationship with God? And I feel like that's just so unfair, because you have one, your identity, and then one is your belief about you, the whole reason you exist and what happens afterwards. And you're supposed to choose. Like it's really not. It's wrong. I think that is morally corrupt. Truly.
Well, this is why too, like I think your background in this is so unique, but also very needed. And I'm just curious, like, how has your journey, like, studying faith intersected like with your queer identity? And what have you learned about like healing, like in that tension?
It's a great question. I would say that the journey always continues. I don't think there's this end point, like, oh, I figured it out now. But what did help was I made peace with not knowing. And I don't mean not know when it comes to my sexuality, or that whether or not I'm accepted by a God. I 100% do not believe that any God is going to hate me for existing, or
Mm-hmm.
anyone else for that matter. And I also don't think I can really understand God. We're human, we can have all the concepts in the world, and we do. So all the studying I did, I think I was always searching for the answer. If I study this enough, I'm going to know. I study this enough, I'm going to know. So having studied, having traveled, having met people, I realized that there is no knowing. There is no knowing.
Yeah.
So with that, I just try to be the best person that I can be, whatever that may mean. I mean, I may look back on myself, 5 years from now and go, "Ooh, I don't like who I was 5 years ago." I mean, we don't know, but doing the best to, I believe in dignity of everyone, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe in social justice. So those are the things that I will continue to fight for. And if there is a God, I can't imagine that a God would want us to harm each other.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely so true. And the fact that we can do all the studying, as you said, but nobody really knows, though. Like, we're
Mhm.
not really going to find the exact answers. But I think, as you said, the best you can do is try to be a good person.
Yeah, and grow and learn and know that we're also very contradictory beings as well. Don't be afraid to change your mind based on new information.
Yeah. Oh, that's more than okay.
Yeah,
100%. Yep.
I think we can get stuck there, and when I work with clients, I always make a joke, and I'll say, okay, tell me what, your goals are of this is asterisk, subject to change. And that's fine, because the more you get to know yourself and the more experiences you have in the world, it's beneficial to change. You don't want to be thinking and feeling and acting the same way that you did when you were 10 years old.
Yeah, that would be very concerning, actually.
Yeah,
I
right? Like it'd be
think.
very unfortunate for you and those around you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the way I think of it. Like we're all on a journey, and I do think that most of us do try the best that we can, but as far as like my own faith journey, I have no idea. That's my answer to your question. I have zero idea. I just hope that if there's something on the other side, that I did well enough on this side to be part of something positive on the other side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to put it because I think I sit with this all the time. Like, I really don't know what's going to happen. Like, nobody does, but all we can do is just try the best we can while we're here,
Yes.
like living on this planet. I'm curious because you do talk about trauma-informed care. So,
Mhm.
what does that actually mean in practice, especially when you're working with queer clients?
So trauma-informed care is evidence-based care that actually look at the whole person. So there's a lot of studies and types of therapies that help people deal with their trauma, their experiences that really live in them and live in their bodies. And trauma-informed care is really understanding all those systems and working within all those systems and being, as a therapist, culturally sensitive and aware and open to.
Hmm.
And but there's so many different practices like somatic therapy and EMDR therapy, even CBT therapy. So I guess the easiest way to say trauma informed care is the whole system and the
Okay.
experiences that that system has had and may continue to have too, and how
Hmm.
to help them move through the trauma, because trauma does live differently inside of us versus like a bad experience versus a traumatic experience.
Yep, that's so true. And it kind of like sometimes it can even come up way later. Do you see that very often
Oh
that you
yeah.
would never know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, all the time, because this is not something that we've talked a lot about in public spaces. Maybe the past 10 years or so have we started really talking about this. Trauma really does live in your body and in a part of your brain that stores information differently. So you can, if you have a traumatic experience and you haven't worked through it, it doesn't really matter how much time goes by, because your brain, that part of your brain in your body, will react like it's happening now.
Mm.
So, like if we take something even more simple, I mean, not great, but more simple. If you're in a car accident and it was a very traumatic experience for you, but you're just, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Well, you haven't really processed it. So, you may have a fear of riding in a car for the rest of your life because you
Yeah.
haven't worked through it. So it's like that happened when I was 15, but I'm 45. Shouldn't I be over it by now? No, actually, because you haven't processed it in your brain to make it a memory. It's still a trauma, right? So that 100%, if you've had a trauma, the quicker you work on it, the better for you in the long run. It doesn't even have to be conscious. It can be like you freeze up, you tense up, and why is my body doing this? And you may not even recognize it as doing it, but your nervous system knows what's up.
Your body tells you first, I think
Yes,
sometimes.
100%. 100%. So trauma informed care is also helping your client understand the body and the nervous system and how that all works as well.
Wow. Wow. That's a good example too, though, because yeah, I think I've even seen that just with something you could have experienced when you were younger and then yeah, you shoved it away. You're like, I blacked that out because I think that's like you're trying to protect yourself.
Yes.
But really, you'll later notice like this like was a trigger for me and now I haven't dealt with it. So it's definitely a lot to come to
And you
terms
may
with.
not even have a memory of it. That's the thing that's also kind of fascinating, because studies have shown that people that experience really traumatic events from 0 to 5 will have more difficulty in adulthood than someone who experiences trauma like in their teen years, because it's during brain development and they're not really able to process the information. It's just the way our brain works is fascinating. So when I work with clients, I do want, to the best of my ability, to understand what their upbringing was like, who they were raised with, did they have brothers and sisters, how did they live, what was their financial situation, as best as they can, because all of those things informs how they react to things today.
Hmm. It really, really does. I mean,
Yeah.
I even think back on a therapy session I had like a few years ago, and I was just talking about one of my family situations, like growing up, and like I'm very close with my mom, and there was a scenario where my mom had to like just go on a trip for like 2 weeks, but I was really young. I must have been like 2 years old. But my dad always remembered when I was 2 or 3, however old I was. He's like, it was so interesting because you kind of like didn't bring up mom, like you didn't ask about her. You were very quiet, like kind of almost like you shoved that away somewhere and you just went along like life. And when my dad would bring up my mom to me, like, just to see, I just wouldn't say anything. And then when she came back from the trip, we picked her up at the airport. Apparently, I burst into tears because I
Mhm.
was like releasing like all these emotions. And I remember my dad thinking that's so sweet, like she really missed you. But my therapist was like, I wonder if that was like a trauma in a way, like there was a fear, like she left, but you just were coping, even at 2 years old. I was like, I never thought about that. I only knew this because my dad told me.
No, totally. And then how you relate to people that are important in your life today can reflect that experience, but your knowledge of that experience, if something's not working for you now, you can look at that and go, okay, I attached this way when I was really young through this difficult experience. So I'm reacting, my body's reacting, my brain's reacting like this. It's not really about this, it's about that. So how do I move through this? Like so you can unlearn some of this and you can have healthy functional relationships for sure. But like we all have some unlearning to do because we were raised by human beings, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you do also train everyone from like hospitals to clergy on queer inclusion. So
Yes.
what's one misconception you see come up again and again in those particular settings?
People do not know the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation.
I was curious if that was something that was going to be a misconception.
Constantly, constantly. That is the most difficult concept for whatever reason for people to understand. So that is what I see come up over and over again is that inability to understand
How,
orientation versus gender.
how does it go when you explain it? Do you feel like it's still like over their head or?
There's this really cool diagram called genderbread person, and I use that a lot, and it basically really explains like in a Likert scale, like sexual orientation, gender identity, sexual expression, how people prefer to dress, what is mask, like it like breaks down like different aspects of identity of sexuality and gender, and I feel like that can be super helpful. But the main thing that I try to get across is talk to the person about who
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
Don't make any assumptions because we can use a genderbread person all day long, but that's not going to make the difference if you're not speaking to your client or your patient or whomever, whatever setting I might be in. It may be clergy, it could be funeral directors. I mean, I did a presentation for funeral directors last year about inclusion.
Wow. This is really important you're doing it though, in all these various settings. Because, like you said, it's also just learning how to talk to people. Like,
Yes.
genuinely, it's like talk to the person.
Totally. I mean, it's in how to have inclusive language. And one of the things it can be hard for some people. And I just try to remember we're not really asking about whether or not you agree or disagree with who someone else is. What we're talking about is how do you include them in your paperwork when if you're a doctor and you're like and you happen to have negative feelings towards gender identity or trans people, completely wrong, but let's just say you do. Trans people exist. How does your paperwork communicate gender? How does your
Absolutely.
paperwork communicate relationship status? You
Yeah,
know?
that's a
Yeah.
common, yeah. Oh, 100%. Or even just assumptions, right? I
Yes.
even had experience too. I identify as a lesbian. I'm dating a woman, and every time, like, no matter what, anytime I'm in a hospital setting at a clinic, it's always like, you're assumed to be dating men. I even
Mhm.
saw a form that said it checked off dating men. And I said, nobody asked me this, first of all. I'm not. And also, what?
It's so awful. Like
Yeah.
I know that, as a woman under a certain age, this has happened to me last year. And I was like, what? They're insistent that I take a pregnancy test in order to get a CAT scan. And I'm like, I am not pregnant. Well, we have to in order to do this. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay to get a pregnancy test when I don't have sex with men. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And it's very, I don't even know how to explain it. It makes you feel so invisible.
Oh, extremely invisible. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it like hurts. Like you like have to fight this system. And it's clear why so many queer people do not feel safe in medical spaces.
100% they don't. In
Yeah.
places that you were told you're meant to feel safe. And yeah, no, absolutely. It's the one place people are the most uncomfortable because they're feeling judged and they feel invisible, like you said.
Yeah, so what I try to do when I do trainings is there are symbols and signs and things that you can do for someone to understand, like that can they know that they don't have to be on edge here. Like, you're gonna honor like the whole person, because it's not comfortable. Like you said, checked off, I date men, and then for you have to be like, I don't date men, I have a girlfriend, right? Or a
Hmm.
wife. That feels scary once that has been checked off for you.
Yeah.
Am I now in a safe space? If I say this, what's going to happen? Am I going to get a weird look? Is it like, I mean, it's very stressful to just exist in the world as a queer person.
It is. Yep. And
Yeah.
as much as maybe I can't even say it though. I feel like, yes, times have changed, but at this point in life now, it's extremely unsafe.
I'm thinking about, pride and what does that mean for people and why it's still so relevant. And I guess we just have to keep doing the work.
Showing up and speaking out. I think exactly. Keep putting your voice out there and
Yes.
helping others.
And if you don't feel safe to do that, that's okay. But those of us that do, it is a necessity.
Yes, absolutely. For queer people who have been harmed by religious institutions, what does healing look like for them and where can someone even begin?
Okay, shameless plug. I am finishing a book right now that's going to be published through Persis, and it actually is a whole religious treatment model, and it's for therapists to learn how to work with folks that have been harmed by religion, not just queer folks, but anyone that's been harmed by religion. So I would say like it's a lot of extensive work, but I'll just say what my book says.
Hmm.
Basically, it's recaps is the um, acronym, and it's to regulate a person's nervous system, which we were talking about earlier, because you can't really do the work if you've been traumatized by something. We can't get in there and start talking about it if you freeze, or you have, you know what I mean, freeze, if you run, if you like disassociate. How are we going to go deeper, right? So we regulate, we educate, we pull back on regulate as often as possible, and then we kind of clarify their own feelings and thoughts and ideas about a belief system, where they came from, how they got there, what do they believe now, and then we align their values with their belief system as best as possible, and then put that into practice. And then how do we sustain a belief system or a spiritual system that makes sense for the person that has been traumatized by a high
Hmm.
religious group? So it's definitely like a whole system's worth of work, because the damage is pretty extensive.
Hmm.
And it's damage that's repeated, whether it's by family, by society, by culture, by politics. It's so you're constantly fighting against this wave of trauma. But can it be done? Absolutely.
When is the book meant to come out, or do you know that yet?
It will be within the year. I'm giving them my manuscript at the end of this month. So, but yeah, I'll be talking more about it, and people can jump on my website. Like, I want this to be an accessible thing for people, because I really want people to feel like they can have spirituality and faith, whatever that means to them, and heal from pain that they may have experienced from, religion growing up.
Of course, and it's very, very common. It
Yeah.
is. So having this as a tool and knowing like, you know what, I want to start seeing what are the ways I can feel, that I can still practice this. Like this is what I believe in. I think that's very, very important because otherwise you do feel very isolated. You're like, I don't think I can. Am I even allowed to be queer and religious? I think that's like a common question.
Absolutely. And just from, my experience, even now, I still, when I people tell me that they're Christian, my nervous system acts up immediately. I feel anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's just the residual trauma of having the experience of feeling hated by Christians, right? Like I've had a million Christians be loving, but those key moments that it wasn't loving, it's very impactful. So it's even learning how to like recognize when that's happening. Oh, my nervous system's acting up because of this. Has this person done anything for me to actually feel this way? Is this old stuff? Where do I mean, there's very quick work that you're doing in your brain once you've like really worked through your trauma that helps you move through it faster and doesn't have to live inside of you in the same way.
Yeah, that is so true. I'm really excited for your book to come out, and I know it's going to be very important for people to have access to. I'm glad you're doing it.
Think
Seriously.
it's life's work and
Yes.
personal work, you know.
Speaking of, like you're doing a lot, right? Like I mean, the burnout can be real, especially in especially
What do
in
you mean?
I'm like, seriously, I could imagine though, like, because between like, your activism and then working in mental health, how do you take care of yourself while you're also holding space for others?
Well, as any good therapist does, do as I say, not as I do. But I will say that taking care of yourself is so important because your body will do that for you if you don't do it. So what I do is I exercise. I try to exercise every day, even if I feel like I'm on this deadline. I'm like, okay, like just 30-minute walk, like something to move my body. And then I try not to work past a certain time. But also, I'll tell you this, when you have such a passion for something, it doesn't feel like work. So it's like I just have to gauge, like I don't see a ton of clients right now because I'm finishing my book, right? Like so it's like you just have to kind of like strategize. But I mean that's a real thing. Like burnout is absolutely a real thing. And just unplugging it for a little bit. Like put your phone down an hour before you go to bed. Like even if it's little things,
It's the
truly.
little things. And I love that you said exercise and movement, even if it's like, I'm going to go for a walk. And I've heard of this term earthing as well. Apparently, if you are barefoot in the grass and you're
Yeah.
really getting in touch with like literally your environment, that can
Yes.
do wonders as well. That's something I'm like, I think I need to do that because,
It's 30 seconds.
yeah.
That's what I tell my clients too, because I feel like so many of us are on that burnout cusp, and we might think, okay, well, now I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes every morning. No, you're not. You're not going to meditate for 15 minutes every morning because you don't even like meditation and you haven't done it before. So what is it you're trying to do? I'm trying to relax for 15 minutes. Okay, is there a different way? Maybe if meditation is something you really want to do, maybe you do it for like a 1 minute body scan 3 times a day. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves on how to show up for self-care. Like these are the 5 ways to do it, and that's it.
Hmm.
But it can be sitting down and having a cup of coffee, not with your phone and staring out into space for 5 minutes, and then you've done some self-care.
Oh,
You
yeah.
do what works for you.
Exactly. We put so much pressure to be like, I have to do this. And then you're not even relaxed because you're stressed that you don't like what you're doing. Like, you're like,
Yeah, right. Like
I'm going antsy. Like, I'm so antsy meditating for 15 minutes. Like, your brain is not meditative.
yeah, right. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do my yoga for 45 minutes today. I'm so tired, but I have to do it. It's like, well, that's actually not going to be self-care for you then. What's going to
Yeah.
be self-care is maybe you actually just lay on the couch and watch a silly show, and that is your self-care tonight.
And that
Like,
is more than
yeah,
okay. Do it. That's
yeah,
like my favorite form of self-care always.
yes, yes. Like you have to do what works for you. How do you calm your system?
Yes.
That's the ultimate question, not how other people are telling you how to calm your system.
That's the trick. Yeah, what actually works for you? Because
Yeah,
we're all so unique. We can't compare.
totally, totally. Universally do something that for breathing and exercise, whatever that might look like for you.
So looking back at your own journey, like both personal and professional, what advice would you want to give to your younger self?
Don't sweat the small stuff, and everything small stuff. I know like that's a thing, but like I would say like learn how to be present with people because life changes and it's fine, but you don't want to look back and wish you've done this or wish you've done that. So just be present. Like it will work out. Like just be present with people. I think, when I was younger, I was very anxious about what I was gonna achieve or accomplish. And I missed out on being with a friend or being, with a group of people. Like times change and you change. And so enjoy every part of the journey as best as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being, I think that's like, we do that all the time. Like people will look back when they were younger and be like, I should not have worried so much. Honestly.
Like life has a way of just moving. So it's like, who are your people? Like be with your people.
Yeah. Yeah. Being present.
Love your
That's
people.
really good advice. And that's something I'm also trying to work on too, especially, nowadays we're so distracted by our phones. Even a simple, I catch myself scrolling all the time. I'm like not even present, even if I'm on a walk,
Totally. And I feel like I was lucky enough to do this when I was younger, but I would say to anybody now, tell people that you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yep.
it's easy to be in the negative. How often do you tell someone what you value about them, or
Yeah,
yourself?
exactly. Yep. I do love that so much. This is what I want to end this on because I think this might be really nice, especially for the listeners. For anyone who is listening who might feel isolated in their queerness or in their mental health, what's one message you want them to hear today?
I promise you that there are many of us. I promise you, you're not alone. You aren't. And while we're talking about putting the phone down at this situation, you might need to pick it up and look for queer communities in your area. And if they're not in your area, they're online. There are people, I mean, like I was saying earlier, like I lived in fear growing up and hiding in isolation, and that is not my life's story. And if you're in that situation right now where you feel isolated, that is not your life's story.
There's community
There
for
is
you.
community, and it is a strong community.
Yeah, I love that. I love our community. I
Yeah,
do. The queer
me
community is
too.
beautiful.
Totally. Like it's cry worthy of joy to see people embracing themselves and embracing others with love.
Well, Anne, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure and having you on. I learned so much, and yeah, you answer so eloquently. You were great. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, anytime you want to talk, just let me know. If you have any questions about anything, just reach out. I say that to the audience too. I want to be a support as much as possible.
For the listeners too, how can they contact you? What's the best way to reach you?
So to reach me would be to go to the AnnRusso.org website. If you want to reach the therapy practice, it's AMR therapy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Hannie Saba, and you've been listening to I'm Feeling Queer Today. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and share the show with your friends, family, or even the family of raccoons that lives by your garbage. A 5-star rating goes a long way to support us and making more episodes of the podcast. If you're new here, welcome to the party. Make sure you go back and check out the rest of the episodes from this season. We met queer youth all over the country, including our friends in Provo, Utah from the top of the episode. You can listen to all 9 episodes of Season 3, plus bonus episodes wherever you get your podcasts. We want to hear from you. That's why we set up our online voicemail box for you, our listeners, to leave us messages. Go to speakpipe.com/IFQT and drop us a line. That's speakpipe.com/IFQT. If you or a young person you know between the ages of 13 and 24 is currently in crisis, visit thetrevorproject.org for LGBTQIA+ specific support through text and chat, or call 1-866-488-7386. These resources will be in the show notes too. To learn more about the Future Perfect Project, head to our website, thefutureperfectproject.org, and find us on social media at The Future Perfect Project. Thank you to Persis Abraham from the Room for Us podcast and Anne Russo for letting us share your interview with our listeners. And a special thanks to our friends from Encircle Provo, Macy, and my dear friend Shem. IFQT is produced by the Future Perfect Project with support from Radio Kingston, WKNY, Kingston, New York, and our I'm Feeling Queer Today podcast cohort. Alex Massey, Parker McKenzie, Samuel Smalls, Lily Muller, Eric Eubank, and Zorian Edwards. Our theme song is performed and composed by Alex Massey and produced by Emma Jane Sizlowski. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Emma Jane Sizlowski. Additional music from the Room for Us podcast. This episode was hosted by me, Hannie Saba. Special thanks to executive producer Celeste Lacine, as well as Future Perfect Project team members Ryan Amador, Kiko Wan, and Aaliyah Jamil.